Hi everybody and welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today I have a weekly wrap up for you. My husband is watching the Avengers downstairs, so I'm sorry if that's really loud, but I'm hoping that you won't be able to hear him. So this week was such a slow week for me. I feel like I have 4 books to share with you, but that feels like so little in comparison to how much I feel like I've been reading this week. I've actually been reading during work days, which never ever happens. So yeah, let's just get started. So the last time we were talking, I was reading A Good Killing by Alison Leota, and I said that if I had a snow day, I was going to finish it, and that's exactly what I did. This is the 4th book in a series. I haven't read the first 3, but I found it on bargain for $5 at Barnes & Noble, so I decided to pick it up anyways because it had a really, really good rating on Goodreads. And it follows this woman, and she's kind of like a prosecutor. Well, she's not kind of. She is a prosecutor in Washington, D.C., and she gets this call that her sister needs her help. So she drives back home to see what her sister needs, and it turns out that her sister is now kind of the prime suspect in the crime of killing the coach that lives in their town. So she's trying to protect her sister, but there's all this evidence that's coming out that's making it look like her sister did it. It was interesting because I was all ready to give it 3 stars. It was an okay book. It wasn't amazing. And then all of a sudden I got to the end, and when we finally found out the whodunit part, I was jaw dropped. So that's why it got pushed to 4 stars. Other than that, it was kind of just an average Joe kind of mystery. There was nothing intense about it, but it was just a good mystery novel. That's what I'm going to say. So it wasn't a thriller or anything like that, but the whodunit at the end totally took me by surprise, which bumped it to 4 stars. So I read this. And then I attempted to read 2 by 2 by Nicholas Sparks, and I got 30 pages in, or not even, I think 25 pages in, and I stopped. It was very slow, and I wasn't ready for it, so I stopped reading that, and then I decided over the weekend, because this package came in, that I was going to read Timebomb by Joelle Charbonneau. So I read this book. I just hauled it. I don't know if you saw my haul already, if it's been up or not, but I just got this. I pre-ordered it. I was so excited to get it, and it takes place a week before school starts. There's these 6 students, and they're all in this school for a different reason. We know someone is there and they're practicing their instrument. We know someone's there because the JV football squad is practicing, and they're in the school, and all of a sudden all these bombs start going off. And it's about their survival, and it's also kind of a mystery because we don't know who's setting these bombs off. Is it one of these 6 people? Is it someone on the outside? They have no idea what's going on. So it was very intense. I gave it 4 stars as well. I didn't 100% love it. It wasn't oh, this is mind-blowing great, but it was a really good story. Kept me on my edge. I did not predict who did it either in this book as well, so it wasn't 100% predictable. Obviously, you kind of start suspecting everything, so I did at some point kind of predict the whodunit, except there was so much possibilities that it still takes you by surprise. I did like it because it wasn't just when you read the school shooting books and things like that about someone just going crazy in a school with all these innocent people. This was a week before school, so that wasn't its purpose. It has a completely different purpose. So I felt that was totally different than all the other books that have been coming out similarly like that. So I thought that it was really interesting. But I was left with a whole ton of questions. There was one character that we never really figured out why they were in the school. I don't know. I felt like I just needed a couple more answers, and maybe that might have bumped it to the 5 stars, but still a solid 4 as well. So my reading was okay up until that point. After that, I was this is still not going to happen. So I decided to pick up The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I've turned into a Kristen Hanna reader this year. I have read one every month so far. I read Firefly Lane in January, I read The Nightingale in February, and then I read The Great Alone in March. So, Kristen Hanna the year. I've never even read a Kristen Hanna book before this year, but apparently I'm doing it. This follows, it takes place right after Vietnam. This follows a girl, I'm forgetting her name. I wanted to say Lainey, but that doesn't sound right. Oh, it was Lainey. Yeah, and her family, her father was a prisoner of war in Vietnam, and they come home, and he is like a completely different person. So he ends up finding out that someone that he went to war with actually left him property in Alaska. So he decides this is his chance, this is his new start, and he moves him, his wife, and Lainey all the way. It's actually probably not Lainey. It's Leni. Lenny? Maybe it's Lenny instead. They move all the way up to Alaska, which is very scary because he gets triggered by weather and things like that. And when you think about Alaska, like, it's dark a lot of the times. There's all this wilderness, and it's scary, and you are more likely to not survive it than survive it. There's a lot of darkness in this book. This is a very dark read. The father can be very abusive due to his postpartum depression, because obviously that wasn't really a diagnosis back then. But it really follows this like close-knit community who is trying to protect her in her kind of survival mode of how to survive Alaska. It was okay. I gave it 3 stars. Her dad irritated the bejeebers out of me. Like, if he was in one more scene, I think I was about to like throw this book out the window. Like, he was so unrealistic. Like, obviously, like, take the abusiveness out of it. Like, just the comments he was making, and he just completely sounded 100% stupid during some parts. Like, the town was trying to revitalize themselves and like possibly like bring more tourists to the area, and he starts freaking out. You would think that this guy was like a native to Alaska. Like, he was freaking out and just acting completely unrealistic. And I understand that was part of his like MO and who he kind of was, but like for me as a reader, it was like cringeworthy. This book can also be kind of graphic. At one point, Lenny is learning how to hunt, and she shoots a rabbit, and her father makes her as the hunter eat the rabbit's heart like right then and there, and I was like, ugh. I was like ready to vomit. Like, it was, I don't know. And I don't think it was anything to do with Kristen Hanna. Like, I picked this up because I knew the other Kristen Hanna books read really fast, so I assumed this would do it too, and it didn't. It did not read fast for me. But I think that the storyline and I just did not vibe. Like, I think that it just was kind of totally out of my element and wasn't what I was expecting it to be, and that's why I like didn't love it as much as I feel like other people did. Like, I know people really enjoyed it, and I could see why they did, but for me, the girly girl in me just could not do it. And then after that, I finally went back to 2x2 by Nicholas Sparks. I read that 25 pages originally. I read 100 pages Monday, so that brought me to like page 110. Then yesterday I read another 100 pages, so then I was on page 210. Today we had an early dismissal because of snow that like didn't even start until 4 o'clock, but whatever. We had an early dismissal, so I came home. I like watched some Teen Mom and America's Next Top Model and whatnot, and finally around like 4 o'clock I finally like sat down. Well, no, I took a nap first, so maybe like 5 o'clock I finally sat down. I powered through the rest of this. It's now 9:49. The minute I finished this, I like wrote my review and hopped on here to film this. This book was so slow for me. Like, this book took me way longer than any other Nicholas Sparks book has, I feel like, ever taken me. I really wrote a lot of it about it on my Goodreads account. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was very, very slow for me. Each chapter started with a flashback to the past, which is fine, but like I felt like it didn't add anything to the story. Like, it didn't add any crucial points or any thoughts to the story. It just kind of was like, it kept taking me out of the story, and I was like, I just want the story. Stop doing that. So by the end, I just started like skimming them because they weren't giving me any important information anyways. And then the synopsis on the back talks about something that is definitely not even a plot point until over halfway. And this book is 481 pages. And one of the big plot points doesn't happen until about like 210-ish pages. So like, why is it on the back? Like, don't spoil me with things, because then the whole 200 pages I kept being like, okay, when's it gonna happen? Okay, when's it gonna happen? And like, it just was not happening, and it was driving me crazy because I just wanted it to happen. And I'm like skimming through the book because I was like trying to find like where it possibly could be, because I was going nuts. I was like, I just need the plot point. I just need it now. And it took a long time getting there. I also could not stand the main character, Vivian. So this follows a man and his daughter and his wife. Like, I don't want to give you the synopsis because really that would... we just had the conversation about the synopsis. But things happen where he ends up being almost the sole provider for this little girl, and his world is kind of flipped upside down. Okay. His wife is a nut job. An absolute nut job. She would go from being, like, the nicest person to the most evilest person you've ever met. The reaction she had to things were, like, disgusting. She was just irritating and just selfish and conniving and just disgraceful world. He wasn't much better, but at least he was more tolerable than anything. I loved London. I loved all the other characters that were in here. By the end, Nicholas Sparks gets me in every book, and I was bawling my eyes out. So it turned out to be like, the story and the message I got. I understand it and I really enjoyed it, but like all the other elements made it really hard for me to enjoy it. So that's why I ended up giving it 3.5, because I felt like it didn't necessarily deserve a 3, but it definitely didn't deserve a 4. So I felt like it was just kind of in the middle. I think this story could have been told in a way condenser format. I think recently I feel like his books just keep trying to get bigger and bigger, and I don't know why. I liked when his books were just kind of small, concise, easy to read, with a good message in it. Like, I don't know why suddenly all his books are big. But I did see he's coming out with another book in October. It'll probably take me just as long to get it as this one, because I'll probably wait for paperback, or if it shows up in my local library. But overall, I finally powered through, and I finally got to it. I don't know what I plan on reading next. I didn't get any further with The Zookeeper's Wife. I don't know if I'm going to. I think partially I want to watch the movie now to motivate me to read this book, but a lot of you also told me you hated this too, so why am I going to keep going? I haven't decided yet. And then I have 3 more books in my TBR that I haven't read yet. I haven't read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I haven't read Lilac Girls by Martha Hale Kelly, and I haven't read One With You by Sylvia Day. So this book is also another kind of chunky book. So I don't know if I want to read this yet. Same with this one. This one's also over like almost 500 pages. So both of these are almost 500 pages. And this one's not. This one's like barely 300 pages. So I think I might go with this one because I have been putting this off for a while. And I feel like after doing 2x2, which was like almost 500 pages, and Kristen Hanna's book, which was almost 500 pages, I think I need a light, fast read. So I might pick this up, or I might pick something else off my shelf. I don't know. But that's where I am this week. How did you do this week? Let me know down below, and I will see you guys really, really soon because I have that spring book haul coming soon. So